There we go. Let's bring it.
All right, joining us now, Democratic Congressman Brendan Boyle of Pennsylvania, who yesterday introduced the Standardizing, Testing, and Accountability Before Large Elections, Giving Electors Necessary Information for Unobstructed Selection Act. Fantastic. Otherwise known as the Stable Genius Act. Also at the table, MSNBC chief legal correspondent and host of The Beat on MSNBC, Ari Melber. Congressman, welcome. I'm sorry for all the guys.
No, that's okay. And that freshman quarterback for Alabama was both stable and a genius with that final play, so
yes,
I agree.
Yes, he was. That is so true. That was it's an amazing story on so many levels.
Absolutely.
Stable Genius Act, go.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll have the best words to describe this. Essentially, we all know that it's a play on President Trump's tweet, and there have been many things about his behavior that have raised serious questions and even recently talk about invoking the 25th Amendment. The reality is, though, if we take a step back for a second, President Trump has forced us as the American people to recognize there are some gaping holes in our presidential election system. We thought that it was, frankly, just always a norm that presidential candidates would release their medical records. President Trump, with the exception of that one letter from a crackpot doctor declaring himself the most physically fit human being to ever run for president, that aside, we have no medical, physical, cognitive information on someone who is now sitting in the Oval Office and at, to be candid, an advanced age. Yeah. This is a problem with President Trump, but this is going to continue to be a problem unless we take legislative efforts to address it. So making sure that the presidential nominees be examined by the Navy doctors at Bethesda who are charged with the medical care for any president, I think that that is an appropriate measure. And if we don't do it now, even when we get beyond this Trump presidency, this is going to be an issue that we face again unless we put a system in place to prevent it.
Yeah, you know, this is one of those tough topics where in order sort of to survive the discomfort that it produces, sort of like sexual harassment, you know, we laughed along the way for the past 15 years at behavior that was not acceptable. And we're now laughing as a release when it comes to this president's behavior. And my worry is that it's got the same result. It's normalizing behavior that is unacceptable. And while sometimes we find what happens to be very humorous, I, like you, think that there is something serious going wrong with this presidency. And it may be within the parameters of what you're talking about.
Well, and I do think that whether it's with this president and his rather bizarre and eccentric behavior, but even moving into the future, you know, the reality is that in today's day and age, we have many viable presidential candidates in their mid and late 70s. We know that whether it's anyone, but especially someone at an advanced age, making sure that the voting public can make an informed selection, has that information released on someone's physical and cognitive fitness before making an informed vote, that is very important. I would have liked to have had that information when it comes to the current occupant of the Oval Office, but we need to make sure we finally fix what is now quite clearly a glaring hole in our system.
Congressman Brendan Boyle.